Hey guys, how are you? I hope you all are good. Welcome back to my channel One Stop Biology. I know it's been a long time since I have uploaded a video, but nothing to worry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be very regular now. I'm going to devote a lot of my time on the channel with you guys, and I'll be covering the entire class 11th and 12th biology syllabus for you, for both for your boards as well as NEET UG preparation. And we'll be starting with the NCERT series. So since the basic of biology starts with NCERT, and either you're giving your CBSE board or you're preparing for NEET, studying the NCERT book for class 11th and 12th is very, very important. So we'll start with NCERT series for class 11th and 12th both. Today I'll be starting with the NCERT class 11th, and once we get into a pace, I'll be starting off with 12th as well. So even the class 11th NCERT is not just going to help the students who are going to start their preparation for NEET, basically who are in class 11th, but it is going to help you in your revision as well if you're in class 12th. So please check out the video. Apart from these two things, I have two more announcements. So since I'm going to devote a lot of my time, I'm not just going to provide you videos on YouTube, complete video series on YouTube, but I'm also working on the crisp and concise notes, which is going to help you a lot. Trust me, a lot with your preparation of boards and NEET. And I'll be working on my website, so you can go and check out my website for the entire notes of NCERT and a lot more. The website name is One Stop Biology.com as per the channel name. Please go and check out and leave your feedback there. And since I got few requests from you guys that I should make the video in Hindi as well, what I'll be doing is I will be covering the entire syllabus, and I'll be making all the videos in Hindi as well on the other channel, which will be dedicated to the audience who want to listen it in Hindi. Please remember that the notes will always be in English, but what I am going to teach you, I am going to teach you in Hindi on the other channel, the link of which is in description, and all the videos will be uploaded on both the channels at the same time. I do not want to leave even a student behind who want to learn from me. Okay, so please check the description box below for all the details related to the things that I told you. You will get the entire notes on my website. You will get all the videos in English as well as Hindi. And if you have any doubts or queries regarding to anything that I am going to put up in the channel, you can also contact me on the WhatsApp number provided in the description. Okay, so now let's start with the very first unit of class 11th, which is diversity in the living world. And we'll start off from the first unit. I do not want to skip any unit because I want the video to be helpful for a very, very naive and new student who has just come to class 11th and has no idea of what is going to be in the class 11th and 12th. And unit 1 basically deals with the basics of nomenclature of biological sciences, which is very basic but then very important for the entire class 11th and 12th syllabus, because you will be using the same rules when you are naming species of plants or animals going further. Okay, so we'll start off with the first chapter, which is the living world. Okay, now the living world starts with some of the characteristics of all the living organisms. The first characteristic being growth. So the first point mentioned in the chapter is that all living organisms grow. Now, what do you mean by the term growth? So growth is nothing but increase, right? Increase in what? Increase in mass and increase in number. Both are termed as growth. So either you grow by cell division, is again a kind of growth, or you grow in number from 1 to 4 in an organism, is also a kind of growth. Okay, so all the species of plants and animals, basically all the living organisms, keep on growing either in mass or in number. There are certain exceptions where species are endangered or are extinct due to some or the other environmental factor, where it is considered as degrowth. So if, say, the total number of species which are growing in mass but not growing in number and decreasing in number, basically then are termed as endangered species, right? So those species are basically in danger and we need to work on growing their population. And there's something wrong in the environment, in the biodiversity as such, and we'll come to the word biodiversity as well. So next point of the living world is reproduction. So basically it is a very important characteristic of living organisms, and reproduction is nothing but production of progeny. So basically production of an offspring possessing features which is similar to those of parents. So we are not exactly alike to what our parents are, but we bear a lot of similar features to either our mom or dad, or even to our close relatives, right? So reproduction is nothing but production of an offspring, and they possess features which are more or less similar to those of parents. Okay. Now again, reproduction can be asexual and sexual, and we will be studying that in detail in the later chapters of reproduction. Now let's come to another characteristic of life, which is metabolism. So basically all of us are made of chemicals, right? Now these chemicals can be small and big, and they can be of various classes. They can vary in size. They would be having different functions. Like we have so many molecular reactions going inside our body, and then we produce different forms of again chemical molecules, like carbohydrates, like proteins, which are made of amino acids, which are another chemical. So a lot of chemical reactions going on at the same time in our body, right? So basically again, metabolism is a very important characteristic of life. Then we always have a defining feature. So we have a cellular organization, right? In most of the cases, so we have a definite structure, basically depending upon the organism. And the last point is nothing but consciousness. So basically we all are always aware of whatever is going on in our surrounding, right? It, in our case, it is through senses, like we smell, we taste, we feel. In the same way, even plants respond to these factors, right? Like plant respond to light, they respond to temperature, they respond to other organisms, or even they respond to pollutants, right? So there are various factors due to which we always are conscious about whatever is going on in our environment, right? So with that, we'll come to the next term mentioned in NCERT class 11th chapter 1, which is biodiversity. Now can you guys tell me what is biodiversity? So biodiversity is nothing but the number and the type. So it is what? Number and type of organisms present on Earth. Okay, so the total number and the total type of organisms present on Earth is biodiversity. Okay, now since we have so many different kind of organisms, And then since we have so many different countries, so many different continents, what happens is you always use your local mother tongue to name anything as per your language. So what used to happen earlier is the same species used to be named differently in different parts of earth. Leave earth, even in one country like India, me being from the northern part of India would be calling a different animal with a different name, but some of you being from a different part of India would be calling the same animal with a different name. And if we two are having a conversation together, it will be very difficult for us to identify which animal are we talking about, right? So to make that simpler, to somehow simplify that, what the scientists in earlier times thought of is having a structured biological name for each and every organism that we identify. And this is what they called as nomenclature. Okay, so nomenclature is nothing but biological naming of each and every organism that we identify. Now, how do you name these organisms? So in order to name these organisms, you should understand the properties or the characteristics of the organisms, and that is when identification came into picture. So how you will understand what to name, right? And to understand that, you should understand what the organism is exactly, how two different organisms are different in characteristics, so that you name it differently, right? So these two are completely interlinked. So you identify and then you name it, right? So for that, and to make it more structural, to make it more easy to understand, there were certain bodies made of scientists who used to name these organisms. So for example, there is an international code for botanical nomenclature. Botanical nomenclature means nothing but the nomenclature of plants, right? And in the same way, international code for zoological nomenclature, this is nothing but nomenclature of animals. Okay, now what does nomenclature mean, and how do we name an animal? Like, should it be a 10-word name? Should it be a 1-word name? uh, even in our culture, a lot of us have a first name and a last name. Some of us have a first name, middle name, and a last name. Some of us just go for a single name, which is the first name, right? So how to then organize that? How to make it structural? So we experimented with a lot of nomenclature, like binomial, trinomial, multinomial, but the standard that we use till date is binomial nomenclature. So binomial nomenclature, as the name suggests, has two components, right? So it has two components wherein you have a generic name and you have a specific epithet. Okay, and this was given by Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, so what are the two components? See in the next slide. Now, so you have a generic name of a species and a specific name of the species. Okay, now you have, in order to make it simpler, one has to follow some rules of nomenclature when you are writing or referring to a name, biological name, and that too binomial nomenclature name. So basically these biological names are written in Latin and italics. Okay, so irrespective of the origin of the name of a species, it is always Latinized. Okay, then the next point being that the first word represents the genus and the second component denotes the specific epithet. So generic name and specific name. Third is, if you are writing a biological name by hand, if it is handwritten, you always have to underline the biological name, the binomial name separately, right? So say we'll take an example of Mangifera indica. Here, as you can see that it's handwritten, right? I have written it on my iPad. So what I did is I have underlined it separately, and there you cannot just underline it by one line. This is wrong. You have to underline it separately, and always remember, whenever you are referring or giving example of a biological name in your boards, usually if we forget underlining this, you lose some marks, right? So always remember to underline it separately. And the last point being that the first word, the generic name, starts with a capital letter, but the specific name always starts with a small letter. So here also you can see that I mentioned the generic name with a capital M, and the specific name is with a small I. Now this is nothing but our favorite fruit, mango. Okay, so in some cases, as the next point suggests, that the name of author, so the person who identified and who named that particular species, comes after the binomial nomenclature. So since Linnaeus identified Mangifera indica, his name is mentioned. Okay, so how we name it, a lot of things are involved. You identify it, you properly classify it, it should be in systems, and then finally you name it. And while naming it, while writing it anywhere, or while printing it, you have to follow these set of rules which are very important. Okay, so now next let's come to how you group. Okay, how you group it. So basically grouping means taxonomic categories, making different categories. Now what is taxonomy? Taxonomy is nothing but a grouping of the organism. All living organisms are usually classified into different taxa, and taxa is nothing but group in a layman language. Okay, so there is a particular hierarchy that one has to follow when refer to any living organism which starts with species. Okay, so species is nothing but a group of individual with fundamental similarities, right? So I'll give you an example of lion and tiger. So Leo is for lion and Tigris is for tiger. These two are two different species, lion and tiger. Okay. Now the next way when we move up to the hierarchy is genus. What is a genus? It is again nothing but a grouping. I am grouping these two species, and what I am doing is these two species are being grouped, and what I did is I put them together in the genus Panthera. Okay, so now any other genus, any other group of species apart from Panthera will have less similar characteristics as there are in lion and tiger. Okay, so genus is nothing but group of species which are very similar. Okay, now as you move even up in the hierarchy, the next class comes family. Family is nothing but group of related genera. Okay, so this is nothing but group of related genera. Okay, so now what happens is the way Panthera is a genera, in the same way you have a genera which is Felis. This is basically for cats. Okay, so now Felis and Panthera are clubbed together in a family. Okay, and now this family is nothing but Felidae, cat-like family. So cat-like family may you have cats which is under the group Felis, and you have lion and tiger which is under the group Panthera. Okay, now as we move even up in the hierarchy, the next is order. Order again is nothing but related family. Okay, so here what you have is you have even more diverse form of species. Always remember that as you move up in the hierarchy, the similarity in between different groups keeps on decreasing. Okay, so when I talk about the order now, in the same way that we have the family Felidae, we have another family which is Canidae, which means dog-like. Okay, so we call dogs canines, right? Because of the teeth that they have. So they are named Canidae, which is dog-like, and these together are clubbed in one order, which is Carnivora. So there's always one similarity due to which they are clubbed together. So since they are carnivorous, they are clubbed together as Carnivora. Now as you move up in class, again this is nothing but related orders, and how you club them is, say, the primates, we call the group of say monkeys, gorillas, or us as primates, right? So the primates are clubbed together with Carnivora in the class Mammalia. Again, Mammalia is a common feature that we all have, that is presence of mammary gland, right? Now comes the top two like points, or the top two groups. So then you have classes of, say, fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, all clubbed together, right? And in the same way, plants are clubbed together. So when you talk about animals, we call it phylum. And when we talk about plants, we call it division. Now this is together clubbed as phylum Chordata. Okay, and then comes the topmost hierarchy, which is kingdom. All the animals belonging to kingdom Animalia, and all the plants belonging to kingdom Plantae. Okay, so this is the exact hierarchy. Do let me know if you have any doubt while understanding it. It is very, very important because it will be referred to a lot of times later in chapters of class 11th and 12th. Okay, all the definitions that I explained in short here. Now let's take up some examples, and remember that when it is good to always give examples when you are answering your questions in boards. So you should remember some examples of animals and plants to refer to, like here you can see that the common name humans or man, which is biologically called as Homo sapiens. Since it is printed, it is in italics. If I'm going to write it, what I'm going to do, I'm going to underline it separately. Then you have genus, which is nothing but Homo. Then you have family, which is Hominidae. Then you have order, which is primates. Since we are primates, it's Primata. Then you have class. Since we have mammary gland, we are mammalia. And since we are chordates, our phylum or division is chordata. Again, in case of mango, the biological name being Mangifera indica, Mangifera being the genus. It comes from the family Anacardiaceae. It is a sapindale, it is a dicot, and it is finally an angiosperm. So you will study a lot of different types of plants and animals, their complete classification in the later chapter of the same unit. Okay, so always remember that you should remember some of the plant and animal species. Okay, now coming to an end of this chapter, there are certain taxonomic aids given at the end of the chapter. Taxonomic aids are nothing but basically different ways to study these plant animals or different organisms, and make it useful in our daily lives, in agriculture, in forestry and industries, as a bioresource, as medicines. So what you do is you study about different organisms, and if there are any alarms, if with respect to an organism being endangered or extinct, you try to conserve it, you try to preserve it for further study, right? So the first term mentioned in NCERT is herbarium. Herbarium is nothing but a storehouse of collected plant specimens. So there is a specific way to dry press a plant. So I remember during my college days, the first project that I had in my bachelor's was to make a herbarium. And what we did is we used to collect a lot of plants, plant leaves and flowers from different parts of Delhi, and we used to we were explained how to press it and press dry it basically. So you press it and you dry it, and if you don't do it properly, what happens is the coloration changes. So the plant loses its original color, and it becomes brownish or blackish, and which cannot be a part of a herbarium. So you collect the plant with the original color intact, so that you can study it further, right? So a lot of pigments are present in plants, which if not preserved properly, there's no point of keeping it and studying it, right? So I remember making a complete herbarium of different plant varieties with their flowers and uh, uh, leaves. I know it sounds very simple, but it's very difficult to understand how to dry press a particular type of flower. There are different ways, right? So next is a botanical garden. So what you do is you take a particular area and you make a specialized garden with collection of living plants, to which too you can refer to. So we had a botanical garden inside our college, to which we used to refer to for various experiments. Like we used to grow beetroot and a lot of plants, to which we used to study in labs afterwards, right? So you have botanical gardens. One of the botanical garden, a famous one, is in Lucknow, NBRI. Then comes museum again are nothing but collection of preserved plants and animal species for study and reference. Then comes zoological parks. Again, museum and zoological park being a very interesting thing, and I hope you guys have seen it. If not, you should visit it once. Museum being a collection of preserved plants and animal species for studies and reference. The last terminology that you can see is nothing but the key, which is nothing but taxonomical aid used for identification of plants and animals. Now that is based on their similarities as well as dissimilarities. So each statement in the key is called a lead. Then you have different say pair, which are nothing but contrasting characters. So contrasting characters are known as couplet. So it's nothing but a way of identifying plants and animals based on similarities and dissimilarities, right? With this, we can end this chapter. Again, it's very basic but very important to understand if you are starting your preparation. I hope you like the video. Please do check the description of the video to find various details about the chapters and things that I mentioned, like notes, complete notes of NCERT, and a lot of things on my website. And do let me know if you have any doubt related to this chapter, to this video in particular. You can leave a comment to which I can answer, or you can even drop in a text, a WhatsApp text on the number mentioned in the video. Do subscribe to my channel, refer it to your friends, and I hope you like the video. Thank you.